Hello and welcome to Edukemy's YouTube channel. My name is Harsh Singh, and in this video, we shall discuss the Gazette magazine for 14 September 2021, your daily guide to UPSC current affairs. Now, the hot selling articles in the market today are: 1. Supreme Court guidelines on how the resolution process must be done. Now, this is about corporate insolvency resolution plan. The second snapshot for today is on the boost of the textile sector. So PLI, production linked incentive scheme, for the same. And the third one is on India's space sector. The government has now finally decided that there will be external investments and private investments in the field as well. So 3 snapshot update articles. This day in history we have dedicated to Hindi Divas. The featured news of the day, which is on a separate video, is on Women Reservation Bill. So this is one video, and the video that you're watching is the second video. Do ensure that you watch both of them. It has been 25 years since Women Reservation Bill was first presented in the Indian Parliament. Now, in this context, we will understand in this featured article what is the need, what is the prime need, what is the impending need because of which women reservation becomes very important thing that contributes to Indian polity. Also, what are the opponents, what are the reasonable and unreasonable grounds on which women reservation is being opposed in the parliament. Not just that, we will also try to understand what are the innovative ways in which both these sides can be moved ahead in the way forward. So this is the featured news. Now, image of the day is on Zapad 2021, which is a military exercise being conducted in Russia. Terms and concepts. The 4 terms that we discussed today are climate action and finance mobilization dialogue. This is a dialogue between India and USA. Second one is on a species of vulture, a critically endangered oriental white-blacked vulture. The third one, the saline gargle, innovative saline gargle RT-PCR technique, which has been given to the country in rural areas. And the fourth one is shape-shifting. We will understand what shape-shifting is about. 3 editorials that we discussed today are: the first one on Shanghai Cooperation Organization. There will be a meeting held and we will have to understand what are the various perspectives. Very important editorial. The second one talks about the important difference between financial inclusion and financial integration. So another enlightening editorial that I found. And the third one is about reopening of schools and what are the side effects of the same. Case study of the day is on Master Moshai from Bardhawan in West Bengal. So let's start the discussion. We have dedicated this day in history to Hindi Divas because September 14, 1953 was the first time when this day was celebrated. As the name itself suggests, Hindi Divas tries to commemorate the Hindi language, which has been used in Devanagari script as one of the important languages for the country, right? And therefore awards are also given so that this language is promoted in the country. Image of the day is on Zapad 2021. Zapad 2021 is a military exercise being carried out in Russia. India is also one of the participants. There are 10 plus countries participating, and most of them are Central Asian countries. India is participating in its capacity, but we have observers. We have observers like Pakistan, China also watching this exercise. Snapshot 1 is on an important judgment by Supreme Court, where it has said that if a ruling has been passed by NCLT, it cannot be modified later. This is in regards to the execution of insolvency and bankruptcy code. Now, what happens is that when a company goes bankrupt, right, if it is not able to pay back to its creditors, so this is the bank or this is the company, and if it is not being able to pay back to the creditors it has taken the loan from, they could be banks, they could be other people, retail investors, right? So they will later initiate a process called as CIRP, Corporate Insolvency Resolution Plan. So this is how whatever money, whatever assets this company has, it will either be sold, it might even be auctioned in the market, some other company might take over this company, and this is how the creditors will be given back their money. This will happen. This process will be initiated only if this company is not able to repay the loans. Agreed? So this is what insolvency and bankruptcy code is about. And in case they are not able to pay, they will follow CIRP, Corporate Insolvency Resolution Plan. Now, after this plan is initiated, then this company does not have certain rights, right? So rights are with committee of creditors. They are the ones who decide. These committee of creditors are those people who have credited money to this particular institution for its running. So they have important stake, right? Now, this is where the Supreme Court has said. Now, can you tell me one thing? NCLT previously had a provision that yes, if a plan has been instituted and if there is modification in that plan, if this company somehow is ready to pay back again, it can be accepted. How can it be accepted when a plan has already been initiated? This is where Supreme Court interjected and said that if the plan has already been executed, it will not be paused. There will not be any change in that particular plan. So this is what the article is about. This article gains prominence because ease of doing business is very important parameter for any country to receive funds from abroad, for any private investment in the company. Right, any particular institution will be helped through funding, private funding or international funding, and therefore we need ease of doing business. And India has done well in the last 4 or 5 years of ease of doing business. You know why? Because business exiting a business is one of the important parameters of ease of doing business. One of the 10. We have discussed all 10 of them sometime or the other. Right, so I will not repeat them right now. So ease of doing business is also determined by exiting a business, and this IBC code is the one that helps in exiting a business easily. Earlier, it used to take as much as 4 years to resolve a dispute like this, resolution of a company. So, in case there was an issue with the bankruptcy of the company. But now, the mandate before IBC is that the plan has to be finished. The whole resolution has to be finished within 330 days. And if we try to further meddle with the process, this delay will happen again. So again, we will be getting back into the same process where there is delay of exiting a business. It is not good for any investor, right? And therefore, the advantages of including this procedure right now, ensuring that Supreme Court judgment is good, we will see that it will prevent further round of negotiations. So further round of negotiations means time delay. It does means that there will be no ambiguity. The NCLT had said that after a plan for resolution had started, it could be withdrawn further. So this is where the Supreme Court has clarified that no, it cannot be withdrawn. The second snapshot is on the boost to textile sector. This boost is being provided by a production-linked incentive to the textile sector. So around 10,000 crore rupees has been provided by the government. The production-linked incentive program, the chief motive behind this program is to incentivize the company to produce more and export more. Now please listen, produce more and then export more. If they export more, they will be given more incentives. Now, this incentive is based on the acceleration in the exports. That means export must increase with time. And this is how certain sectors, 12, 13 sectors have been selected. Electronics, and then we have pharmaceuticals. We do have now the textile sector. Now, textile sector has always been important for our country. We have been a cotton producing country. We are a tropical country and cotton is produced here. And even during British's period, we used to export cotton, right? Now, there are two important types of the textile that we export. They are called as MMF fabric, man-made fabric. So they are of two kinds, synthetic and cellulose. Synthetic is also based on the petroleum products, and then we have cellulosic. That means those fibers that are utilized for making of the fabric. And this is where this program has been given a boost. Now, we have to understand that since this has been a sector which has historically been affected, that means we have had some traditional unemployment in this sector. This also contributes to the export economy of the country. This not only contributes to export, it also is an important contributor to the GDP of the country. And therefore, the textile sector must be preserved. For that, the government initiated National Textile Mission as well, right? Along with that, this textile must not be linked only to the retail sector. It can be linked to various other sectors like hygiene, health, water, infrastructure, all of them. One simple example I can give is jute textiles. Now, jute textile form important bags, right? They can be used for storing goods, right? What about water conservation? Now, these jute bags only can be placed at the corner of the water conservation facility. So, another water sector, health, hygiene, look at the sanitary pads. So, you can have n number of examples, and examples will serve your understanding of this article, right? This is why the government says we will not restrict the textile sector only to retail business. We will diversify the products, right? Now, India is already facing a huge competition from the countries like Bangladesh, from countries like Pakistan. In fact, the situation is such that India has started to import textile, ready-made textile from Vietnam, from Bangladesh. We do wear that kind of textile, right? And therefore, what is required is to make this sector profitable. How do we do that? We have to do that by making the whole process automated. Right now, there are places in Gujarat which are still working on hand hand looms, right? So people, they are not power looms, they are working on hand. And therefore, this mechanism is not scalable. The idea is to make it scalable. You know why? Because there are important investors who are looking for places where they can invest in this kind of business. They will invest only if they see that this business is scalable. It can give them rewards. And therefore, we have to make it scalable, right? So they are looking for those companies which are more compliant in scalability. This is one important requirement. Second, specialization. India needs to specialize. Now, India already has good amount of cotton production. Cotton production will be aided if we have more specialization in these two domains, right? Man-made fabric domains. So this is important. And the third one, competitiveness. If we have to increase competitiveness of our products, we have to have integrated facilities, integrated factories where production is there, where supply of goods is there, production is there, and then straight away exporting is there, right? So this is what is the snapshot about now. Today only I read another article on Business Standard. It said that India is trying to now talk a little less about its PLI schemes. Why? There will be issues with GATT and WTO. What is the issue? Now, when India gives estimates that in times to come, in 5 years to come, we will be exporting, suppose, 5 billion extra worth of products. So WTO and other members start to object that your scheme is driven by a purported, a hidden agenda of increasing your export, and you are giving incentives for increasing export. And therefore, the Indian think tank, in fact, the government itself has said that they will stop giving such kind of projections, right? Although it will affect export itself, it will. But government wants to avoid such kind of conflicts in the international domain. India has been aggressively improving its PLI scheme, and it does not want to have any conflict with other powers by glimmering, by putting the PLI scheme in light. So this is the important update here. The third snapshot is on India's plan to increase the domain in which space sector is invested in, right? So right now, I've always wondered why our space sector is driven by companies like ISRO, like companies like HAL, NAL, National Aeronautics Limited, Hindustan Aeronautics Limited, Indian Space Research Organization. Now these are all POCUs, and therefore the funding of these organizations, although they are not military in nature, the funding is done through the government itself. There is no private investment and there is no international investment. Right? So we are deprived of important fields of investment if we deprive private sector and if we deprive the international sector. Right? Look at Elon Musk's company, right? And we see SpaceX is doing so well. It is a private company and it is also aiding the government of USA. It is aiding NASA. They are collaborating as well in number of ways. So India can also do that, and now India has planned it. Right? So this is what is the update article about. Now ISRO has said that once they will have their investment increased, now their global share, their share in the global investments in the company, in Indian business of space sector will increase to 10% from the present 2%, right? Not only that, they have started to institute an institution which is called as the Space Promotion and Authorization Center, INSPAC, Indian National Space Promotion and Authorization Center. What is their job? Their job will be to regulate these private organizations. Their job will be to ensure that they work for the welfare of the company. This domain is a very strategic domain, and therefore they need some regulation in this particular sector, right? Right now, India is definitely having a lack of investment in its particular sector, and there are capacity constraints, human resources constraints, technology constraints, right? And this is where I want to discuss the two important developments. The first one was in space. Do remember this word, right? Indian National Agency. This agency is called as Space Promotion and Authorization Center, right? So we have understood its job. Its job is to take action against those erring companies making mistakes in this particular field, right? This is one, because now we are open to private and international investment. And the second one is NSIL, New Space India Limited. Right. So this is one of the arms which is going to handle the capacity building of local industry for space manufacturing. Now, there are places where there has been discussion of handling foreign customers. So remember, Antrix Corporation is the one which is the commercial arm of ISRO. Commercial arm of ISRO. That means if ISRO has made a space launch vehicle, that means a rocket, and if America wants to have a satellite put in this, America will contact Antrix. They will contact Antrix, and this is how we will have foreign customers for satellite, for launch vehicles. So Antrix job is that, and the second job is of this company, which is New Space India Limited. It will try to promote and build capacity for the local participation in space sector, right? Space manufacturing. So do remember these two important organizations along with InSpace. The first term in news is the Climate Action and Finance Mobilization Dialogue. This dialogue was between India and USA, and this is why one of the special representative of the United States government, John Kerry, came to India for the same. Now, what did they discuss about? They discuss about mobilization of finance and deployment of clean energy in both the countries. So America is going to help India. Noteworthy is that America is the second most producer of the global warming greenhouse gases. China is first and India is third in number, right? So America produces around 14% of the greenhouse gases. India produces around 6% of these gases. China around 28%, right? So half of 28 is 14 and half of 14 is around 6. So this is the proportion, right? And it equates to what EU produces. EU jointly produces around 6%, again, little more than India. So these two countries, India and America, they want to mobilize finance for India to deploy clean energy. Why? Because if you have participated in our editorial discussion, you would know that India is one of the hotbeds for investment in the clean energy sector. America is participating here. This is one. And then they also want to demonstrate the technology and to show that this is a scalable technology, right? They also want to help us build capacity. This is what this conversation between India and America was about. The second term in news is the Oriental white-black vulture. Now, the vultures are being in news these days. You know why? Because it was just 1 week back that the World Vulture Awareness Day was celebrated. It is celebrated in the month of September. And therefore, we did discuss one of the snapshot on vulture. If you type vulture Edukemy, you will come to know the whole background of why we discussed vultures in specific. What is the cause for these birds to become extinct? Right now, what about this specific news? This news is that 8 of these Oriental white-black vulture, which are a critically endangered species, they were released into the wild, right, from the Bir Shikagari Wildlife Sanctuary. Now, this is in news. Now, these vultures are non-migratory species, and therefore they are more vulnerable to the attacks of the environment. Now, what is the attack to vulture? Why have they decreased in the numbers? Now, largely they are detritivores. What do they eat on? They eat on the dead carcass of animals, the animals which are dead. So suppose there is a cattle here, right, and it is no more, it is dead. These vultures would come and eat its body, and that is how they survive. Now, this cattle, if the cattle has been injected with certain kind of medicines, with certain kind of anti-inflammatory drugs, they are injected, right? For example, the cattle is injected with an important drug called as diclofenac. Now, what does it do? This diclofenac is good for the cattle because it is anti-inflammatory. And once the cattle dies, this drug also is a part of the body, and it is eaten by this vulture. And this leads to the thinning of the vulture's eggshells. So this is how the vultures are not able to give birth to their younger ones, their offsprings, and this is how their population has decreased. So this is why all the vultures have become critically endangered. Most of them are critically endangered in our country. Third term in news is saline gargle RT-PCR technique. Now, till now, you know how RT-PCR was done? The sample was collected through nose and it was a painful process, yes. And now a new technology has been developed. In this, one goes through saline gargle and they collect the fluid, and this is how the whole sample is collected. This is a very easy technique, simple technique, environmental friendly technique, and fast technique. And that is why this technique has been given to the MSME ministry, right? So they will be replicating this, they will be creating this product, and after that they will be transmitting this in the rural areas. Why specifically rural areas and why not urban? Because this technology is easy to use, it is fast to use. If it is provided in the rural areas, it is very good for the nation. Why? Because rural capacity is not as much to preserve the sample. So these samples can be kept at room temperature. Right? This is the ease of use, and that is why they are being given to the rural countryside. The fourth term is about shape-shifting. What is shape-shifting? Shape-shifting is the ability of an organism to adapt itself to the environment. So cold environment, it will adapt itself in one way, and the hot environment, warm environment, it will adapt itself in a different way, right? So what are the ways in which we see these kind of adaptations? The main idea of the organism is to ensure that overheating, overcold of the body is not done, right? So balancing of body heat, this is the prime agenda. And this is also Allen's rule. Allen's rule states that the animal living in cold conditions, it will attempt to have shorter limbs, it will attempt to have these smaller body appendages. Why? Because this is how they will preserve heat. More the surface area, more is the interaction of heat with the environment. And similarly, if the organism, if the animal is living in the hotter or warmer area, they will tend to have longer feet. They will tend to have a longer beak, right? So they will tend to have lesser hair on their body, right? So this is the survival strategy for that animal, and this is how they evolve. This is also an important indicator of climate change, right? The way we are trying to adapt, trying to be in air-conditioned spaces, animals are trying to adapt by being there, by having longer limbs, by having longer beaks, by having longer feet. So this is the news. Remember the word shape-shifting. The first editorial talks about the various nitty-gritties and the intricacies of Shanghai Cooperation Organization. The editorial begins by saying that within 1 week, there will be a summit level meeting. That means the premier, the topmost level meeting at the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. And this long editorial is all about what this organization wants to do and what it is presently doing. So it says that of all the multilateral organizations present, in the East and the West, we have NATO, we have ASEAN. This Shanghai Cooperation Organization is not one of the most effective ones. But yes, definitely, as compared to SAARC, it says it is more effective. It says that Afghanistan is one of the observers of Shanghai Cooperation Observation. So is participation in the Afghanistan situation an opportunity for SCO? Is it? So let us discuss this. It says that India, Pakistan have now become members of SCO, right? These two countries along with the Central Asian countries. So what do we have? We have Russia, we have China, and then we have all the 5 Central Asian countries apart from an important country called as Turkmenistan, which chooses to be having a perfect non-alignment with any association. It does not participate in any association. We are talking of Turkmenistan. I will show you that on the map, but before that, let us quickly get into the article again. Now, who are the observers? Afghanistan, Iran, Belarus, and Mongolia. Now, new observers will also be added. Who are they? They are presently the dialogue partners. We are talking of Egypt, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, Azerbaijan, Armenia, Nepal, Sri Lanka. So there's a huge membership, and we also have dialogue partners. Yes, Turkmenistan is one country from the Central Asian region which is not participating in the dialogues. It is perfectly non-aligned to the level that it is also talking to Taliban, right? So it is having its own discussions with Taliban, and this is the fear of some countries like Russia, that they should not be harboring the Taliban. So this is one thing. Now, Turkmenistan does share a long border with Afghanistan and with Iran as well. So there are security threats. This is what the editorial points out. See, the main point of SCO was to ensure that now this SCO got formed in the year 2001, and the precursor to SCO was Shanghai 5. Shanghai 5, where 3 Central Asian countries and Russia and China formed an association. This association was against the USA. So that, let me show you a map. The association between these countries formed in the year 1996. Shanghai 5 had Russia, China, and then we had 3 other countries, including Kazakhstan and some of these Central Asian countries. So 5 countries, 1996. 2001, it expanded and it became Shanghai Cooperation Organization. And after that, India, Pakistan as observer, and then later integrated as members as well. Right now, we do have Afghanistan as a member, as an observer, right? And then we have a country here. This is called as Turkmenistan. Turkmenistan, this country is perfectly non-aligned to any country, to any other country. So they are not a part of any association. And look, they also share a border with Afghanistan. They also share a border with other important countries in the Central Asian region. And therefore, if they are speaking to Afghanistan separately and they are not aligning with anybody, this is dangerous. Right? Not only that, the editorial says that this border sharing is something that is making all the Central Asian countries more vulnerable. When this Shanghai 5 was formed, the main idea was that there should be prevention of US military in the backyard of Russia. So they did not want the presence of America in the backyard of Russia, and therefore Russia wanted to integrate all its USSR economies. It wanted to protect USSR economies of those times. So what are these countries? We have Armenia, Azerbaijan, Belarus. All these countries were erstwhile part of the USSR, and therefore since Russia wants to protect them separately, that is why it initiated this mechanism of SCO, and before that Shanghai 5. Now the protection level of Russia is such that it comes very glimmering in the example of Shanghai Cooperation. Now, Russia has a Central Security Treaty Organization, right? So this is how it tries to secure its erstwhile USSR members, and China is not a part of it. Imagine China is not a part of it and Russia is very protective about its own erstwhile economies, right? China again is saying that let us promote trade through SCO mechanism, right? Shanghai Cooperation. So the main idea was of Shanghai Cooperation was to participate in social, economic and security measures. But Russia is not interested in economic reformation through SCO. Why? Because China is the leader. China will again dominate this space. Russia has its own mechanism and of trade, and China is interestingly again not a part of it, right? So the mechanism is Eurasian Economic Union, right? And China is in divergence to that. So you can very well see that Russia and China have become close in these times, but they are not as close as well. So these are the fractures. These are the small fractures that we see inside Shanghai Cooperation itself. Turkmenistan engagements we just discussed, and there are other issues. For example, Iran and Tajikistan. Now these two countries have Tajiki population. Tajiki population form an important rebel tribal in the Afghanistan. So one Central Asian country is favoring Taliban, another Central Asian country, they are against Taliban, and some of them are even observers and members. So this is how we see. On the other hand, China is favoring Afghanistan. So you see the kind of internal turmoil inside SCO, and this is what the divergence of issue related to Afghanistan is. This is what the editorial speaks of. It says that this is not an impressive organization as of now, but yes, it is one place when India can voice its diplomatic issues. India can voice its issues of terrorism, counter-terrorism against Pakistan, right? And therefore, it gives an important suggestion that the Prime Minister could speak about the three evils. The three evils, they are terrorism, extremism, and separatism, right? Have you known about the difference between financial inclusion and financial integration? Let's talk about it in this editorial. The editorial begins by saying that India has around 63.4 million micro, small and medium industries, and 99% of these micro industries are less than 10 lakh of investment. That means they are very, very small industries and they need a lot of capital amount, right? But this is a part that I am sharing with you. MSME's contribution is immense in Indian development. They contribute to an important segment because they employ a lot of people. After agriculture, they are the sector which employ maximum people. They employ as many as 10 crore people. Not just that, they have a very good share. Almost half of the exports are from MSME sectors, right? And therefore, they become a very significant, an extremely significant part of India's development part, right? And therefore, giving finances to them becomes very important. This is where the editorial gives the example of Parvati. It says that this Parvati lady, she's from Satara. See, she's from Satara and she's a vegetable seller. Now, instead, she has got an account in one of the banks, and instead of taking loan from the bank, she takes the loan from the money lender, the local money lender. And you know what is the rate of interest that she has to pay? She said she has to pay 10% of interest per day. And this is not the interest rate that the banks provide. So why does she still prefer going to them? Even if she has a bank account, she says that these are the people who can give them loan instantly and on a regular basis. She will be able to return the loan, that is true, but they give them on regular basis and it is very quick mode. And this is where the person, the founder themselves, the founder of this bank, they themselves interviewed Parvati. And this is where the founder says that there is an important difference between the product availability, accessibility, and relevancy, applicability, and acceptability. Now, the bank account was available to this lady, right? Yet she did not use it. Why? Because it was not applicable to her. It was not relevant to her in her particular context, right? These days, bank institutions, financial institutions think that the people with less privileged people with less income sources, or the people at rural areas may not be able to return back money after taking loan. But this is not true. This assumption is not true. This is what the editorial says. It says that there are village postal agents and they come to the village itself and they take the money and they save the money for the villagers. So what is important is to ensure that financial inclusion be also related to financial integration. Integration is done through accessibility, right? Not just through creating bank accounts and banks. And this is why the important requirement is to tailor the product. Tailoring of this product ensures that it is available to all the people. So knowing the income profile of the people, what geography, society, what kind of economy they have, this becomes very important, right? And therefore, the editorial says that there is expensive technology in banking, expensive technology, brick mortar structures, and then we have real estate. This is why this kind of economy does not survive in rural areas. It survives only in urban areas, right? And now it goes on to say that the idea must be not only to provide these kind of services in rural areas, there must be financial literacy, there must be technology available for the people to use this technology in rural areas as well. Schools have opened after 17 months, and this editorial talks about the impact of opening of these schools on the teachers and children. The editorial has been written by the former director of NCERT. Many of the books that we would have written have been passed under him. Now, it says that since it has been 17 months since the closure of schools and now they have opened, teaching will get tougher. Teaching and learning both will get tougher, right? And this is where it says there are two types of teachers. One are those who will begin from where they left it. So we have those teachers, no? They say, when they come to the class, they say, oh, last mein kya padhaya tha? Last year, last time. So this time they'll say, 17 mahine pehle kya padhaya tha? All they deal with is the mechanics of teaching. They want the transmission of knowledge. They do not deal with the personal life and especially the emotions of children, right? And this is what the majority of teachers are like. This is the first category. The second category of teachers are those who are emotionally empathetic. Notwithstanding what subject do they teach, whether they teach physical education or moral science or science, they will be always interested in the development of the child. And these are the two kind of teachers who exist. Now, it says that there has been a learning gap. We cannot refuse that a child will learn through digital medium as well. Since the child could not practice in the discipline of learning, there must have been a learning gap. And this is where the teacher might become impatient and short-tempered, especially the first one. The one who is mainly focused on knowledge transmission, right? And this is an unsustainable thing to do. And therefore it says that since the children will not be able to solve problems in maths and language, these are the kind of issues that anybody will face in the school, right? Now, digital education, it says, it goes on to say that digital education was what was provided in the last 17 months, but digital education did have its own limitations, right? So issue of discipline, issue of having addictive behavior about studies, non-participation in community activities, having less friend circle. So this is what a lot of students have gone through, and there must be a balance. The balance is actually in school education. So school education should have been promoted in our country, which did not happen, right? Physical classroom should have been promoted. And this is where it goes on to question why the schools were last to open, why the malls, film destinations and everything else opened, but schools did not open, because this shows the importance of school education in our country. That is why, which is less, right? Now, teachers in India have been deputed at various duties, vaccination centers, airports, election campaigns, everywhere, but not in teaching. This indicates the level that we give to teachers and teaching in our country, right? And midday meals also were stopped, so nutrition abilities were also decreased in our country, right? It says that there are two important suggestions. The NCERT former director gives two important suggestions. He says that one, there must be a new type of experiential learning introduced in schools, so that it can complement the knowledge process, so that the children can be engaged a little further. This is one. And second, there should be a redesigning of the curriculum, especially for this year, because the children already are lagging and they must be encouraged in the field of education and learning. Case study of the day is of Master Moshai. Master Moshai is respected master, and this master, who is around 80 years of age, he is from Bardhaman in West Bengal. What has he done? After retiring as a principal from one of the government schools, he reinstituted his abilities of schooling in a particular school in the region, right? Why? The prime reason for this was that in these areas, there were hardly any good quality schools. Not only that, the presence of the college from this particular village was very far. It was as much as 32 kilometers away. And this was an opportunity for him to utilize his own resources. He was the first resource for his organization. The organization was called as Sadai Fakir Pathshala. And this Pathshala charges, you know how much? Just 1 rupee as a token of respect for the teacher community. right? Just 1 rupee, and they teach the school-going kids. Their prime focus is on teaching the girls, right? So this is where they initiated. Priority area is girls, and the teaching level in that place is such worse, condition is so worse that many of the children are first generation learners. That means their predecessors have never been educated, and this is where the contribution of Master Moshai becomes significant and immense. And for the same reason, he was awarded the Padma Awards in 2021. Not only that, if one starts to initiate their activities, they will get into various allied domains, right? So the energy and enthusiasm, it is not curbed at all. And this is where he went into other fields also, social environmental awareness, and then thalassemia awareness, right? Because when he started teaching, he started to see that these are various issues that people are facing in the region. So his activity spurred a revolution in Bardhaman. If you like this initiative, if you like our effort, do shower some love on us through likes, comments, and shares. If you subscribe to the channel, you will receive timely updates. Thanks for watching.